My family, look at me. Turn off the noise and fix your gaze on the truth I bring you today. They tell you Africa is a place of crisis. They tell you it's a place of unending dust and debt. But I'm here to tell you a miracle is unfolding in the heart of the motherland, in a small, brave nation called Burkina Faso. A miracle powered not by foreign billions, but by faith and humble labor. Imagine this, dear ones. A young leader challenging the mighty Sahara with nothing but bundles of straw and the promise of fish. They are pulling life, real, shimmering life, from the grip of the dry land. They are reclaiming their soil and, in doing so, reclaiming their soul. This isn't just a story of survival. No, this is a word of redemption. If this truth stirs the spirit of, let us speak of the enemy, my friends. Not the visible enemy, but the silent thief that steals the very foundation of existence. The place is the Sahel, that ancient crossing, the belt of dry earth where life has always been a fierce struggle. But for decades, a plague has crept in, subtle and cruel. The desert has been moving, not like a flood, but like a slow, deliberate killer. I'm talking about villages in northern Burkina Faso vanishing from the map, not burned by fire, but swallowed by sand. The soil, the blessed soil that held the memory of their grandparents, simply gave way. Fields that fed families turned into barren ground. Wells ran dry, cattle starved, and hope itself began to decompose under the relentless brassy sun. You see, for the farmer, losing the land is not just losing an asset. It is losing dignity. It is losing the sacred promise passed down from the ancestors. It is being made a stranger in your own home. That kind of despair, that sense of a broken covenant with the earth that cuts deeper than any physical whip. 1/3 of Burkina Faso's land was dying. The people were being forced to abandon the place that birthed them, just as our own people were forced to leave the fields of the South in search of a better life. The pain is the same. The desperation is universal. And who rose up to meet this leviathan of dust? Not a politician with a silver tongue, but a warrior with vision. His name is President Traoré. President Traoré did not fly to Paris or London to beg. He turned to the people and saw the strength they already possessed. He understood that the solution had to be as humble yet as enduring as the people themselves. He knew that the speeches were empty when the wells were dry. He knew that the only way to hold back the encroaching Sahara was to build a resistance force made of the simplest, most discarded element. It began with straw. Yes, straw, the dry stalks, the residue, the thing they throw away. But how can the residue, the discards, the rejected thing, possibly stand against the monumental power of the desert? The truth, my beloved, is that the meek shall inherit the earth. And the true power lies not in what is shiny, but in what is resilient. Hark! Let us give thanks for the wisdom in simplicity. The plan of Ibrahim was a profound act of spiritual engineering. It was a testament to the eternal, unconquered nature of African resilience. Under his fierce direction, the communities were mobilized. They took the straw and wove it into precise, perfect squares. They laid these squares down in magnificent checkerboard grids across the shifting dunes. Listen to the logic, friends. This straw was not magic, it was wisdom. Firstly, it stood as a simple, effective shield against the vicious, land-stealing winds. Secondly, it held the sand in place, like a mother holding a child, keeping the topsoil from drifting away. And thirdly, here is the secret. The straw trapped the tiny moisture, the dew, the scarce rainfall, creating miniature nurseries of life in the heart of the dust. As the straw decomposed, it fed the starved earth, just enough so the smallest, most tenacious seeds could take root. These straw squares were not merely fencing, they were fortresses of hope. But Ibrahim did not stop there. He knew that life needs the eternal flow. His engineers tapped the ancient, forgotten aquifers. the secret water below the sand, and created man-made ponds in the desert. And then, the audacity, they introduced fish, tilapia. The skeptics, the doubters who always need expensive, complicated solutions, they laughed. Fish in the Sahel. But the young captain saw more than fish. He saw proof. He saw food, income, and a defiant assertion of self-sufficiency. Local youth, those at risk of being lost to the world's indifference, were trained as aquaculturists. They became fish farmers. They monitored the life they had literally created where nothing had been before. And when the first harvest came in, when they hauled those fish, silver and shimmering, from the desert ponds, it was a sound of thunder. This was not just aquaculture, my friends. This was African resilience made manifest. This was Burkina Faso asserting that its future is not a handout. It is a harvest. The spirit of the people, long bent low, rose up, ready to fight for every grain of sand and every drop of water. The desert was losing the argument. Now we come to the most beautiful chapter, the restoration of the soul. The impact of the straw and the fish was a spiritual tide that washed over the land. For years, the young people had been fleeing, caught between the need for survival and the loss of connection. The great migration of our own history taught us this pain, the deep ache of leaving home to find opportunity. But now, President Traoré offered a reversal, an opportunity worth coming home for. The migration patterns began to flip. Young men and women saw a reason to return. They were not coming back to empty fields, but to work with their mothers and fathers, managing fish ponds and planting trees. It wasn't just a job. It was the sacred work of nation building. The women, the guardians of the home, formed powerful cooperatives, managing the nurseries and the feed. They became the architects of abundance. When a woman is given the power to grow life, the entire community flourishes. And listen closely to this miracle of the Spirit. Peace began to grow in the soil. In these restored community zones, where people worked side by side laying straw and tending the life they had created, armed conflict dropped. Why? Because they had something to defend. They had dignity to lose. Peace, beloved, is simply the fruit of people who have something precious to live for and to protect. The government's credibility, long eroded by coups and conflict, was restored by the simple act of providing results that could be eaten, that could be touched. Officials visited rural provinces, not with force, but with tools and with a commitment to listen. This son of Africa showed that true leadership means serving the earth and the hands that work it. The climax was captured in Wahiguya, when Ibrahim held that handful of newly regenerated soil and declared victory not in parades, but in the earth itself. That soil was not just dirt. It was a condensed symbol of self-determination. It was a victory for every single person who has ever been told that they are less than, that they are destined only for dust. This is the great teaching, family. Dignity is the right to feed your own children from your own land. When you take back the land, you take back your future. Now, let us turn our critical eye to the nations that claim to lead the world. How did Washington and Brussels react when they saw a young man stopping the desert with straw? At first, they dismissed it. They called it a curiosity, too small for the grand stage of climate policy. They were busy debating multi-billion-dollar geoengineering schemes, complex solutions for complex crises. The irony, beloved, is a heavy, bitter pill. The wealthiest nations, the biggest polluters, were slow-walking their commitments, while one of the poorest was actively reversing climate damage with the simplest of means. American desks at USAID and the African Affairs bureaus were forced to take notice. The media, like National Geographic, covered the story, highlighting how the young captain's initiative was reshaping the future. They recognized the profound power of this story, that true leadership often begins not with the size of your wallet, but with the courage of your conviction. They started asking the crucial question that should shake the foundations of every rich nation. If this is possible in Burkina Faso, a country with scarce resources, what excuse is left for all the nations that possess unlimited wealth and power? This simple, low-tech solution became a silent, moral indictment of the high-cost, high-tech arrogance of the West. It proved that sometimes the humility to look to your own ground, to your own people, is 100 times more effective than all the complicated plans hatched in distant, air-conditioned conference rooms. The world needs to swallow its pride and learn from those it has long dismissed. Because the question is not whether the model works. It clearly does, but whether the powerful are prepared to admit that the greatest answers were always found in the simplest places. And so, we stand here at the crossroads, looking to the future. This story of straw and fish is more than an environmental success. It is a blueprint for self-determination. It is the living declaration of dignity and destiny. President Traoré and his people have shown us that the path forward must be paved with self-reliance. They have rejected the old narrative of dependence on outside saviors. They are saving themselves by planting the future with their own hands. They are demonstrating that true wealth is not stored in banks, but in the fertility of the soil and the resolve of the community. This movement solidifies the truth. When a nation assumes control of its own environment, it assumes control of its own future. They are integrating ancient farming wisdom with modern tools, proving that the past and the future must work in harmony. But the final message, my brothers and sisters, is for us. Dignity and destiny are not gifts to be waited for. They are achievements to be fought for through consistent, courageous labor. The people of Burkina Faso have turned the symbol of scarcity, the dry stalk of straw, into an icon of resistance and renewal, a mighty symbol of their unconquerable spirit. This is the power of our shared heritage. It is the wisdom that resides in the hands of the people, the elders, the farmers, the youth. It is the understanding that even the humblest of materials can become the foundation of a magnificent future, provided we have the courage to build it ourselves. The desert still waits, but now it waits for a people who are ready to fight. And their story calls out to us across the waters, reminding us that we too have the power to plant life where others only see dust. The question is not what they will do next, but what we will do with the light they have shown us. Hush now and let the truth settle deep in your spirit. We have witnessed today an overwhelming force of African resilience. We have seen a refusal to let the past, the dust, the poverty, the dependency, define the future. This struggle in Burkina Faso is a sacred mirror for our own journey. It reminds us that our own fight for justice and a place in the sun is also a battle to reclaim our identity and our spirit. Just as they turned the fragile straw into a powerful shield, we too must turn our history of struggle into an unshakable source of strength, a powerful, living testimony of African resilience that cannot be buried by any amount of sand. The world needs this blueprint. It needs the quiet wisdom demonstrated by Ibrahim and his people, the willingness to learn from the earth and to lead with humility. This is the new law of the land, not the pursuit of endless wealth, but the power of dignity and destiny, forged by communal labor and vision. Tell me, dear ones, how does this revolutionary act of planting a tree in the desert inspire you to address the deep-rooted challenges in your own neighborhood? Let your voice be heard in the comments. I charge you, take this message with you, share this testimony. If this word has moved your spirit, if you find truth here that the nightly news ignores, then I humbly ask you, do not delay. Join this family, join this movement, and subscribe to this channel right now. Hit the notification bell so you never miss another truth-telling session. And let us continue to plant seeds of knowledge, of dignity and destiny together. May your spirit be rooted and your hope always bloom even in the driest of seasons. Go in power Amen.